And my role in data centers has been to, from a community standpoint, utilize them as assets in our community. Data centers have completely transformed our community and its economy, going from a struggling economy to the strongest local economy in the United States of America. And we did that through attracting 43 million square feet of data centers. And also, by doing that, the workforce has just followed with more than 50,000 new jobs in our community. I've been with our department for 18 years now, and it has been one of the great honors of my life to be part of the data center industry and to be able to leverage them to completely transform our community.
Thank you so much, buddy. We're pleased to have you here with us today. We'll go around to my left, Amit Singh. Amit?
Thanks, Vinay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amit Singh. I am the Senior Vice President in ControlS, and I look after the Edge and Network business. I come with an experience of 26 odd years, and I specialize in uniting content, network, and co-location under one roof. And it's been an honor and a privilege to witness the country's growth in terms of the digital infrastructure. And what better way than to be part of a greenfield operator called Jio. So I have done my set of duties towards building the digital ecosystem with companies like Jio. I was part of edge compute company called Zenlayer. I've been part of Tata's and Airtel's. And here today I stand with you guys to see the next wave of growth for India. And very excited about it. And we got a good bunch of people out there who are willing to absorb this knowledge. So looking forward to the conversations.
Thank you so much, Amit. We'll move on to Sudhir Kundar. Sudhir?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am, first of all, thankful to Vinay for having done this with us for second time in a row. It was an honor and a pleasure, and sometimes a bit overwhelming when you have somebody like Buddy around. So here goes my brief introduction. My name is Sudhir Kundar, and I represent the world's largest digital infrastructure company, Dahej, which has been in business for 30 years. We've been in India for about 6 years now, and the rocket ship that you would have heard about, which brings in the networks on the A side and the content and all other consumers on the B side, and relevant to both the enterprises as well as ISPs. As we go forward, we would like to share a couple of more insights into how we see the Indian ecosystem growing and what an interconnection platform of our stature can contribute to the digital infrastructure of this nation, as much as we've done in this brief 5-year period. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sudhir. We're really glad that you're here as well, representing a very important part of the internet infrastructure when it comes to internet exchange points and the value proposition of being data center and carrier neutral, which we'll talk about more. So just taking a step back, since we were talking about stats and how India is progressing when it comes to digital infrastructure. Some of the numbers that I have to kind of share with you is that India's data center capacity is projected to continue its growth, doubling from, at the end of 2023, it was 0.9 gigawatts or 900 megawatts to approximately 2 gigawatts by 2026. And this expansion continues to be driven by increasing digitization and data localization trends that's happening in parallel across the country. And despite generating 20% of the global data, again, India generates 20% of all global data. India currently holds only a 3% market share when it comes to the global data center capacity. So if you think about it, the amount of data that's generated and consumed in India truly, to me, represents a significant opportunity which is ahead of all of us when it comes to building more data centers and kind of capitalizing on some of the trends, whether it's AI, whether it's data localization and sovereignty and so on and so forth. And some of this, the gentleman to my right, Buddy Reiser, has single-handedly led some significant, unprecedented growth when it comes to data centers and the importance of public and private partnership. So, Buddy, I want to start with you to kind of, what was the catalyst for you in making Loudoun County as the leading data center market globally?
Well, first of all, if I were going to make an investment in anything right now, I would be making an investment in India in data centers, because the growth potential here is so extreme and the opportunity is just so big that I think that this could be the next big growth market. Vinay said that by the end of 26 they'll be at 2 or 3 gigawatts. Just by way of comparison, my county is just one little jurisdiction. We have 7 megawatts just in Loudoun County.
Yeah, to put it in perspective, a county, just for those of you unfamiliar, it's bigger than a state, it's bigger than a city, smaller than a state. So in terms of the geographical area, so think of it as sitting in New Delhi, the Delhi NCR region, like as a region, right? So to put it in context, Buddy's giving you that comparison, India as a country and Loudoun County.
So when we were trying to figure out 18 years ago what we wanted to be and how to grow our economy, we had some assets that I was able to leverage. The first one was we were already a technology location, because in 1997, AOL moved their headquarters to Loudoun County. That brought in a lot of fiber, that brought in a fiber exchange, like Sudhir's doing in Mumbai. It really allowed us to leverage that. So when we were looking to the future, we saw this opportunity and decided that was going to be where we were going to plant our flag. So we started very aggressively going after data center companies. I put a big sticky note on the back of my door and listed every technology company on the back of the door. And then as I was able to get them to come to Loudoun County, I would kind of cross them off. It took me 15 years to get everybody on my list, but we've done it, and that was a great celebration for us. But when you look at how data is used, and when you look at the technology opportunity, you cannot do it without the data centers as the critical node in the technology infrastructure. And that's really digital infrastructure to enable the rest of the technology to exist.
Thank you for that perspective, Buddy. It's just every time I hear you talk about the growth story and how it really happened, it is unprecedented, and I would say it's unrepeatable from the perspective of, of course there's a lot of growth happening worldwide. People ask me all the time, what are the key reasons where there's growth? I mean, digital infrastructure is such that I tell people all the time, and this is the digital evolution of us as humans, the way we are developing data and consuming data on an ongoing basis. But it's just phenomenal to hear the story from you about Loudoun County and how it came to be what it is today. I'm shifting gears a little bit when it comes to a data center provider, right? Of course, there are so many attributes involved that Buddy has mastered at this point in time in terms of helping from selecting land, doing MEP design work, doing all the initial prep work to get a data center off the ground. Can you just, as an operator, just for our audience, talk to us a little bit about, from a data center operator perspective, what are the key attributes you look for when developing a data center, and how has, of course, Control-S's journey has been as a data center, as one of the leading data center operators in India?
Sure. Let's understand what Control-S is all about. Control-S started sometime in 2007, and today we operate 15 data centers across 8 important markets, and we are also among the first few who have edge data centers in tier 2, tier 3 cities. Let's take a step back and understand how data center evolved. Till few years back, our population, which once upon a time was a weight on us, today adds a lot to the data traffic growth. The traffic surge in India led to growth of people, average age. We were talking before this, a panelist spoke about Japan having an average age of 45, 46. India's average age is 27, 28. And that's how with the digital growth, the growth of data center infrastructure also kicked in. Majorly starting with Mumbai and Chennai, because these happens to be the cable landing stations as well. So for us, the primary importance has always been the location where we are building these data centers. Right now, for example, in Bombay, we have a data center park comprising of 5 buildings. And in total, if you put all our data centers across, we have around 250 plus megawatt of capacities, which we are doing. To give a piece of point example to make it more easier, our latest data center was launched last month in Chennai. Now, this is a corporate park which has 1 million square feet of space with 72 megawatt of IT load capacity. This means that what it means by IT load is that the electricity load after removing the passage, the infrastructure, it's only for the equipment load that we need. So it has a 72 megawatt capacity that it can support. It's built with 7.5 Richter scale of earthquake resistant. It is a flood proof building. It is built on 14 meters high above sea level. And it also has a combined network which is a all carrier neutral facility. So for us, Vinay, to build this, our major responsibility is to have a good source of power, which we focus on so that we can build and support this infrastructure. It has to have a place which is easily accessible for the people who want to host their infrastructure with us. It also needs an element of carrier neutral support with all partners being there, ISPs being there, so that the traffic is exchanged. We also need partners like Sudhir being there, which helps in this traffic flow. So what we focus is to build an entire ecosystem which supports this infrastructure growth.
Absolutely, Amit. I think you explained it really well. Thank you for that explanation. And you know, generally speaking, we look at these large, humongous buildings from the outside. You cannot appreciate the amount of complexity and technology and the various different attributes that go inside from an electrical plant, mechanical plant, servers, compute infrastructure, networking equipment, all of that happening inside the facility, yet the business is actually very simple. When these facilities are built, you generally have these large 18-wheelers, trucks bringing in rows and rows of servers that are brought in on racks. They're installed there. And really the business is to get that data that's hosted in these servers from inside that building to the rest of the world. And that rest of the world could be across the street. It could be across the same metropolitan area, like in this case in the NCR region. It could be another city, it could be another state in the same country, or another country across another continent. And when that happens, that's where the interconnectivity and the overall connectivity comes in from a digital infrastructure perspective and the importance of that to the data center. So talk to us about that connectivity. Why is that important, and where does a company like yours come in, and what have you done in India so far?
Thank you. So, just to put things in perspective from the number that was given out by Vinay, and when you put that into rupee value, you will see a staggering growth that India has already witnessed. Till 2024, our market was, the data center market was at the rate of about $5 billion US. And end of 2029, this is going to be crossing at a very, very conservative estimate to the range of about 13 odd billion dollars, which is like an unprecedented number as per industry pundits who were looking at it from a CAGR of about 5% on a year-on-year basis. From there, you see how do you look at an interconnection platform like us contributing to this growth journey and making the infrastructure available for an ecosystem that drives the new gen technology that all of you all today are aware of. And hence, to put things in perspective, back in 2019, nobody knew how to even pronounce our name, so we had to teach people to say what DE-CIX means, and then explain it to them saying you call it as K when you pronounce. From there to becoming APAC #1 in 1.5 years, amongst 29 countries, 153 internet exchanges as governed by DB, launching Cloud Exchange, having multiple services across the single access port whereby you serve not only the metros but the hinterland. So today you have my customer coming in from Jammu and Kashmir, Mizoram, in the Indian ecosystem and SAARC countries as well. Having become a rocket ship in India, we were able to become impressive and a non-negotiable kind of a catalyst for our friends in the data center business, and that's where we saw a lot of announcements come through where DECIX was able to bring in the catalytic understanding with not only national but international players as well. Thereby today we are available across 62 data centers across this country. 22 of them are our own POPs where we have primary, secondary racks wherein we operate the platform, and the balance is through a unique NNI that we've built through various endeavors with organizations like Lightstorm. To put things in perspective now, the business of AI, IoT and 5G is no more a theory that you used to read, and in order to have this digital triangle actually succeed, you need to have a small interconnection platform like us, which acts as a catalyst and makes data get processed, consumed, and goes back at the edge where the whole thing is. What we've seen, the IoT market, for example, in India, you'll be surprised to know, is at the tune of about 2 billion devices connected by the end of 2026 December. That's the rate at which we see it happening. For a lot of people who would know a dairy company called as a real case in point, Chitle Bandhu, which is like 300 kilometers away from my Bombay data center, and we see them using IoT, our Cloud Connect, to ensure that they get the desired business deliverables out. You see, from an investment point of view, when you see the ecosystem, when you see the network there, then the big investments come in. It's not that it's because of us, but overall as a country, you see a lot of interventions happening at the government side, which helps give confidence to the national and international players to come and set up their businesses out here. I'm sure a lot of you would know, but just to put things in perspective, we had Amazon, AWS, make an announcement of $8.3 billion of investment recently. Take the case of Microsoft, which came in with a $3 billion investment announcement 2 months back. On the data center operator side, you have the Yonder Group coming in and saying that, hey, we would like to invest $1 billion here in India, followed by somebody like PDG, which talks about $500 million of investment, and CapitaLand with about $220 million investment. And these are all committed investments coming into India. You see governments falling over each other to ensure that they bring in ease of doing business for these organizations, giving them single window, a lot of tax freedom, 10-year tax holidays, a lot of green energy coming in with those subsidies that the government wants to pass. And all this has led to a lot of proliferation of what we will be able to offer to these organizations when they come in as a ready-made ecosystem for ease of doing business from the consumer side.
Thank you so much, Sudhir, for that comprehensive explanation of spreading across the digital infrastructure. Buddy, would you like to follow up on that?
Yeah, absolutely. When you walk into your house or you walk into your apartment, you turn on the lights, you expect power to be there, but you don't necessarily think about the power plant and all the things that are involved there. When you say, if everybody in here took their phones right now and took a picture, and then you put that, you sent that to WhatsApp, to put it on your social media, whatever, you have just used a data center You want that service, but you don't necessarily think about that as a resource that you need. And I think that it's really important because, Sudhir mentioned education, that he had to start with learning teaching people how to say the name. Really, it comes down to that when you start to think about building things. How do you make it relatable to what people are doing? And I think that that's a big part of what the education becomes in the data center industry.
But just to kind of follow up, right, there's a lot of talk about, the importance of digital infrastructure and, of course, what you have accomplished in Loudoun. But talk to us about what it means for local community, what it means for, public-private partnership and for the region in terms of when it comes to economic development.
Yeah, for us, it's meant everything. We charge taxes to our citizens on their homes and things like that. And then we set that tax rate. We used to be at $1.285, and we've reduced that by 48 cents, saving our citizens $4,000 a year. That's significant. This year, we'll get $1 billion of tax revenue from the data centers. So we're making, and that's on a $3 billion budget. So we're getting 38% of our tax revenue that's used for schools, that's used for roads, that's used for fire and police and everything else. We're getting 38% of that tax revenue from less than 3% of our land. And as I said, saving our residents $4,000 a year while providing an outstanding service. And that's what data centers can do in a community. They can completely transform not only the jobs and the opportunity, but also economically they can transform a community.
Absolutely, buddy. Thank you for sharing that. When it comes to the geographic location of data centers, you've had a great recent opening in Chennai. If you look at the Mumbai market, it's known for its cable landing stations for obvious reasons, and Mumbai has a significant footprint of data centers. Same now for coming up in Chennai and Bangalore and of course New Delhi as well. Talk to us about some of the importance of the geographic location and where in India are you seeing data centers to get the most traction?
Sure. One of the primary reasons why a data center city or a location is opted out is for the traffic that city generates. For example, if we take the eastern part of India, in Bihar, Patna generates a lot of traffic, and that is what motivated us to build a edge data center in Patna instead of aggregating it all the way to Delhi. So one of the primary reasons that we look at is how the traffic comes in, what kind of land infrastructure and holidays on these benefits is what we can enjoy. That's motivated us. Besides being Mumbai for the cable landing, 40% of data center market is in Mumbai. The next biggest market is Chennai. Again, there is an element of the subsea part that we have 7 odd cables landing in Chennai. Then we also noticed that the eastern part, because India has been actually a deprived state. We were always 2G and sometimes 3G kind of a network. But now it has changed. So we saw a lot of traffic coming from the northeastern part of the country, Vinay. And that motivated us to build a data center in Kolkata. We have built a tier 4 rated data center in Kolkata in a place called Silicon Valley, which can support 60 megawatt of IT load. And when we see now a lot of traffic originating in these regions have moved to Kolkata. So for example, if I had an application running all the way hosted somewhere in NCR or Mumbai, then to serve the eastern region, I had to come all the way to this market and pick up that traffic, which is not the case now. So one of the biggest motivator for us is how the traffic comes in, how the infrastructure spreads out for us in terms of land, power, because we have our own design company as well, Vinay, so that gives us a lot of leeway in designing this infrastructure. Because we acquired a company in 2017 called Stable, which does data center designing. So we have an in-house design team. So all this chemistry works really well for us. So all the jigsaw puzzles fall in place. And that's what motivated us to build this 50. Now we have more plans to build edge data centers in Ahmedabad, in Gift City. We are building one in Bhubaneswar. We are building one in Vizag. We are building in Guwahati. Again, keeping the geographical part because India is a huge country. We are building one in North as well. We are evaluating more such cities. So we keep on doing that.
Yeah, you mentioned edge data centers a couple of times. I mean, for our audience, can you just at a high level explain the difference between an edge data center and a regular data center?
To make it easy, I'll use two words, edge and core. So typically Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, these are core data centers with a power of more than 5 megawatt typically and around 1000 plus racks. Edge data centers are smaller setups basically to aggregate traffic from the nearby regions to that data center. It comes around with 100 to 200 racks and around maximum it goes up to 2 megawatt of power, and you aggregate these traffics here so that the regional content is served and applications are supported. So that's what the edge is. Edge is typically home to a core data center, so you can support.
Okay, great. So you talked about edge, you talked about core, we talked a little bit about tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So to put it all together, from a network perspective, whether it's edge or the core, the resiliency of network and the scalability of network obviously plays a key role. As I mentioned in my opening remark, to me this business is pretty simple. You got to get that data from point A to point B. Talk to us a little bit more about the importance of a robust internet exchange platform when it comes to that delivery of data.
So, very valid question actually speaking, because at DAY2 we always used to say latency is the new currency. And if you go to look at it from your own personal and professional experiences, if you want to look up who Amit Singh is or who Sudhir is today, the data is on your handheld or on your laptop 140 times faster than the time you can blink. So that is something that we orchestrate as the support layer. Otherwise, earlier it used to travel all the way, bring that data. That's where latency is. So one is obviously we bring in the level of efficiency that you would want as an enterprise or an ISP or an end consumer to look at it. From a use case point of view, we bring down the cost also to serve the customer for the consumption that he does. On the other side, robustness, security, scalability are the hallmark of what an internet exchange or an connection platform like ours brings to the table. So if I have to give you very simple understanding, take the case of a ophthalmic company which all of you all will know, Narayan Netralaya for example, from Bangalore. Earlier on IP transit or full duplex bandwidth, if you would understand that, they would take 330 milliseconds to reach AWS Singapore, where, for various reasons, they decided to have their setup. Come to DAY2, last 4 years, latency has come down from 330 milliseconds to 40 milliseconds, and that is what we bring to the table for organizations, and hence we have telcos today adopting our services. That is the use case at an individual enterprise level. But if you look at it from an industry usage, as I mentioned, IoT and AI IoT is something that works like magic today, and everybody knows how some data points have been flashed earlier. But if you don't have a robust network, then there is no point having these fancy setups at your end, and that's where we bring the low latency scalability. Today you might have 10,000 devices for a smart city, and for a city like Bombay, overnight you would require 1 million plus devices to be connected on the same network. The amount of scalability, time and the lag that any open internet will bring to the table is far more as compared to what interconnection platform driven solution can bring to the table. So whether it is a 1.5 trillion global number that we talk about in AI IoT, the same adoption is over here in India with 80% of your enterprises today talking about investing in AI IoT, and that is where our kind of a network plays to the gathering. But look at it from an implosion of data also, Vinay. have a lot of organizations, as I mentioned earlier, wanting to do business in India. So India in and India out are both stories that are playing out at the same time. And that's where, in our own small, humble way, we've ensured that we have done alliances with organizations like GCX or HSLR, which is in India, after a arduous journey of 3.5 years, where today, India to rest of the world, in its true form, from 100 meg kind of a connectivity to multiple 10Gs and 100Gs is possible via robust ecosystems that our partners bring to the table.
Excellent, thank you so much. I usually don't like to keep the questions till the end. I see many of you are on your phones. The moment you go to your phone, you're hitting a data center, just keep that in mind. And the more you can learn about data centers, the better you can make your future as well. I'm going to come back to you guys for a question right after this one, so be prepared. Buddy, can you tell us a little bit about, as you talked about in your opening remarks, that the opportunity for India is significant. I shared some of the numbers earlier, and both of my other panelists from a data center perspective, from an internet exchange standpoint, touched upon that as well. What would be in your mind? We don't expect you to share your secret sauce for that matter, but some lessons learned, as a community, what does the country and the industry need to watch out for? What are the kind of key messages you'd like to give?
Yeah, I think that for us, the number one generator today is power. Trying to make sure that there is enough power supply. With AI, it uses exponentially more power than a cloud data center does. So in our community, that has meant more electric infrastructure, which isn't always popular with citizens. It also isn't always easy because it takes you forever to get the land rights and to plan out a route and all those things. The other thing is that there are competing things when it comes to priorities around power, because all companies, and all of us, I would assume, want sustainability. Sustainability is so important when we're looking forward. Now, when you think about what are the key areas of power, number one is availability, and we need to have that. Number two would be reliability. And then it would be affordability, and then sustainability. So you have to try to achieve those four abilities. And when Amit is out there looking at locations, he's looking at making sure he can check all those boxes in whatever particular order they look at them. So it's really important. So power is important. The other thing I think is workforce. There is so much opportunity. Think about all the opportunity that has come about in India because of workforce, has learning the technology world. The data center world is the same thing. There's specialty skills. There are both blue-collar and white-collar jobs. You have to have electricians. You have to have HVAC people. But you also have to have the cybersecurity professionals and the programmers and the people that can fix the computers. All of those things are really important. So I think two of the things that you really want to look out for, power and workforce.
Absolutely, and I think the power factor sort of crucial in terms of the future of this industry from the perspective of being able to support the needs of the IT infrastructure from a power perspective, let alone the power density and the power generation aspects of it. Let's see who has the first question. And yes, Mr. Vasi, you can also ask the question as well. I know you're looking for the mic, I can tell. But this is a great opportunity for you to leverage this extremely talented pool of individuals we have here to better understand. Go ahead.
A couple of questions. First, we just talked about the power.
Yeah, I think your mic is, yes.
Am I audible?
Much better, yes.
As I said, we have just talked about power. I would like to go from Mr. Singh to Mr. Kuntal. What has been your experience about data centers in India and how are they meeting the power requirements?
So, thank you, Mr. Vasi.
Particularly in a place like Bihar, you said
which are live with around 1200 megawatt of power.
When you say we, as a country,
As a country, as a country, we have around one.
And not to draw an analogy or comparison, but how many in Lavon County?
300.
Yeah, and we have another 40 in the making, with around 5.7 million square feet of
And now you know why we feel overwhelmed.
And this power by end of 26 is bound to grow to 2000 megawatt minimum at least. So that's a good sign. And I don't know if you watched the movie Spider-Man. There is a very strong line which I believe: with great power comes greater responsibility. And I think the more the power is going to be, the more responsible we need to be in how we use it. And also, Mr. Vasi, another important point is from the government's standpoint. In 2022 financial year budget, the government allocated data center as an infrastructure piece. Anybody with more than 5 megawatt of infrastructure is tagged as critical infrastructure. So that was the first step from the government point of view. Now, the government has a mandate that by 2030, they want to move 50% on renewable energy, non-fossil fuels. So there is another mandate which is coming from our founder, Mr. Sridhar Reddy, is known as the Green Man of India. And one of the Green Man of India.
Okay.
Because he believes very strongly into sustainability and the efforts to be completely non-renewable, kind of a way. We want to do that. You want to add something?
No, I was just going to say it's great that Sridhar is known as the Green Man of India. To Marai is the godfather of the data center industry, as he's lovingly called in the US.
Okay, cool. I think we need to make you meet Sridhar very soon. Yeah. So on a lighter note, so that's what we all are trying to do. And also what's going to happen with the AI being implemented in a very strong way, and specifically generative AI. Today we are talking about 100 to 200 million parameters. But in the making is where people are talking about 10 trillion parameters added to the generative AI platform that would actually multiply the usage of power. And that is why people are talking about immersion cooling, people are talking about liquid cooling, someone like us, Controllers, has moved into solar plants. So we have built our own solar farm as well. And that's how we are trying to cover as an industry. So it's not just Controllers working towards it, but as a collective industry, we all are putting our best foot forward in these initiatives. Did I answer your question, sir?
Well, yes, to some extent. Okay, but more importantly, the second question which I wanted to put before you was, it seems to be big boys club, requires a lot of investment, if I am not wrong.
It requires a lot of investment. Yeah, to build a data center, you're looking at, $1 billion or so, so that's important. But you're seeing that money now that is coming from the funds, right? Everything from pension funds to equity funds, they're starting to fund this as critical infrastructure. But yes, it's not, we couldn't, today all of us get together and say, let's build a data center. We wouldn't have the resources to do that.
But my question was, what role do you see, maybe not as a direct participant, but as a supplementary support organization for small and medium-sized businesses to play in the data center industry?
Yeah, I'll comment on that. So data center industry, for a lot of people, with all due respect, who are not familiar to it, they just look at data centers as big, large buildings. I briefly alluded to this earlier in terms of what happens inside. Now, also it's important to realize the ecosystem of companies that are there to support the data center, even as a single data center for that matter, and all the customers that are in there. We are talking about network providers, we are talking about systems integrators, we're talking about cabinet manufacturers, we're already touched on electricians, mechanical, fiber optic cable providers. So there is a multitude of different types, Mr. Vasi, that are involved in supporting a data center when it comes to as the support net or the auxiliary other companies that are there. So it's very important to keep in mind even when people talk about jobs, a lot of times there is this conversation, and we've had multiple discussions where they say that the data center industry doesn't necessarily equate to a lot of jobs, right? So it's very important to have that complete visibility across the ecosystem of the industry itself and the supporting companies. And secondly, of course, I've lived in Northern Virginia for the last 25 years. People talk about construction jobs being temporary. Well, the temporary data center construction has been happening for 25 years nonstop. So if you know what I mean.
I'm sorry. I was just going to jump on your question there. We have seen entire industries built around data centers. One of the great things in Virginia is that for every job inside the data center, there are 26 other jobs that are created. That's a very big stat. And when we see that, in our community, there's 25,000 jobs just around the data centers.
Know that for one job inside data center, there are 26 jobs outside. That's really critical.
Correct. Okay, who else has a question? Yes, please go ahead. Why don't you start tell us about yourself, what you do, and then we'll happily take your question.
Thank you, everyone, for giving me the opportunity to ask a question. My name is Prem, and currently I am working as a business development executive for one of the software development companies based in Angola. So I think this is what I can introduce for the moment. And regarding the question, it can be a question, or you can say I wanted to know the perspective from the masters of this data center field, I can say. As you might be aware that Microsoft already launched a project named Project Netting in the year 2013. I don't remember the year exactly, but some time ago in 2024 they declared that it is not being used as a active phase for the moment. It was the undersea data center that they were testing. So what is your perspective that can it be implemented or can be tested in India? And if yes, then which are the regions that any of the leaders in this market can see to it?
Yeah, I'll take a shot at it. Thank you for the question, by the way, and for the introduction. Data center industry is one is growing at an astronomical pace, and two, we talked about edge data centers. We talked about your typical data centers, which are now large, really large-scale facilities. And you'll always have, unique test bed-like offerings, such as the one you're talking about, the Microsoft project as an undersea data center. As part of the digital infrastructure, primarily all the subsea cables that connect different continents together are on the ocean bed. Those are the subsea cables. Obviously, you don't typically hear about data centers being undersea. So I think those kind of one-off projects, you will hear about them. You typically have cable landing stations on both ends of the shore, but in terms of opportunity on those kind of things, it seems like, Buddy, you may have a perspective there.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is innovation, and they're always going to keep pushing the boundaries on these things. Microsoft recently said that they didn't think the undersea thing is going to be viable, but what we are seeing is people that are putting them in caves in places because it's already cooled there, or people that are looking to go to markets like Norway and Sweden because of the cooling. So it is an innovation, but I think, to put that in perspective, there's been data centers for 40-ish years. The industry as we know it today is only about 20 years old. So we wouldn't want to judge, say, the car industry on its first 20 years. I think we're going to continue to see an evolution. You're going to see more efficiencies, you're going to see more energy technologies, you're going to see more innovation. And I think that's going to be really exciting.
Just my 2 cents to it, Prem. It's always not the end result that matters, but the innovation and the R&D that comes out of it, you see. Then there's a cost to it. And organizations are willing to pay that cost. So you will be pleasantly surprised to know that not only in caves, but in decommissioned nuclear bunkers in the US, you have data centers coming up. And in your own country, non-standard deployment, which is, safe from all other calamities, is available somewhere in the south of India, which is already built, running successfully for one of the government agencies, is what I get. So learnings are always going to be in the manner in which you said, a valid point, but it's not a total waste of money, time, effort, and energy that those guys put in.
And I feel in the tech space, never say never. I think you never know. We never imagined this life. We never spoke about having what we are having right now. So I think this would go on. People are talking about nuclear plants, SMRs right now, small modular reactors in India, which are non-functional. And people like the name you took, they are talking to government so that they can get hold of these and they can generate power. So I think there are too many things going on.
Yeah, and by the way, Amit talked about SMRs. They're a big topic of discussion in the data center industry globally at this point in time when it comes to on-site energy generation. So to Sudhir's point, that innovation, that will continue to drive these unconventional, projects. And not every project, will be successful, but there is always lessons learned from that, and will continue to happen. I see, Mr. Wasi, you got up. You have another question. Are you good? Okay, thank you for your question. Did we answer that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else has a question? Yes, please go ahead. Let's start with the gentleman in the blue. Yes, in the middle. We'll come back to you in a minute.
Good afternoon. My name is Ananya Gupta. I'm a first year BTech student. My question is, with the global consensus to move away from fossil fuels and also some countries lobbying for and lobbying against nuclear power plants, especially the US lobbying for the power plant, nuclear production, is nuclear energy something that you as an industry or a company are looking into as an alternative for fossil fuels?
I don't know how we meet the energy needs without nuclear. There are renewables that are very, that are being used, the solar that you mentioned, wind turbine, hydropower, other things, fuel cells, battery. I mean, it's going to be all of the above solution. I think it's important to note that the nuclear that is being considered today is not the same nuclear that would be Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island. It's a new nuclear, right? It's a lot safer. It's more efficient, and it is green power. But you're right. There's a lot of pushback on nuclear because of unknown things and fear factors. But I don't know how we meet the future green needs and really retire coal and those things unless nuclear is part of the mix. That's a personal opinion.
I think the policies for these matters would get framed. So it's in the journey. It's a process of discovery. It's not going to happen overnight that we will come in. And if you think about it, we have 300 days of sunshine. So solar is always there, right? Wind is always there. We've been having it, but we never thought from it from that perspective. So it's going to be a process of discovery for us, and that's on the cards. But there will be a very strong role played by governments and private players put together to put that in place.
Thank you. All right. I think we have one more question at the back of the room.
Hi everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and even I start before, so much for all the experts giving us really good insights in terms of data center. My name is Chetan. I work as the head of partnership and alliances for TechNet. So my question is, as you know that data center industry is growing day by day, and there are a lot of applications, there are a lot of software systems that would come to manage these entire operations. That would also include a lot of AI-enabled softwares, and then there are softwares which are legacy systems are coming up. Now, I wanted to understand, how do you see what is the potential opportunities for companies who are into AI, number one, that can contribute in terms of making data center industry maybe progress a little more, and number two, how does the testing organizations can help making sure that all the applications, all the software systems that are working to make a seamless operations going on. So just wanted to understand the partnerships or the opportunities that small organizations or startup organization might get to work with these I would say premier data centers, and what's hidden for us as an organization going forward.
Yeah, AI brings unprecedented growth for the industry. It brings unprecedented opportunities when it comes to innovation, when it comes to parts to using that technology in so many different ways. And what we're going to talk about today will change tomorrow. Literally, it's progressing that fast. And I think that is an unprecedented time, as I like to call it. I mean, just the other day, Buddy and I were talking about 600 kilowatts per rack. So, currently we have seen deployments of 350 kilowatts per rack. To put it in perspective from an AI perspective, prior to that, we were talking about 100 kilowatts per rack used to be a lot. You're talking about somewhere around 12 to 20 kilowatts per rack standard deployment. So driven by AI is so significant when it comes to the amount of energy consumed in a limited amount of compute space. And the implications of that are in the data center design, the implications of that are in cooling, the implications of that are in the end get. So it's very, very intertwined together, and we will continue to see those changes. And I think I get the message, Mr. Wasi. We're pretty much at the end of our time here. The time went by so fast. I usually like to give 30 seconds each to talk about what the next 10 years look like for them. So, Buddy, we'll start with you real quick.
Growth in other markets. We're going to be really excited to see what happens in India. I think the potential is unlimited, and can't wait to see what happens.
For AI workloads, and we will continue to grow and be among a major shift of
with the kind of implosion of all data center. We just scratched the surface, and India as a country is in itself so resilient that we will figure it out as we go. And so whether you talk about power, whether you talk about space, whether you talk about policies, everything has gone beyond and above what the pundits have. Going forward, I think we will be at the forefront of a reverse migration of data which is today sitting out of the country coming in and giving a fillip. And we from our industry standpoint, being ready to deliver AI ready internet exchange is how we would look at ourselves, to be ready and available for the organizations to avail of our services on the platform.
Absolutely, and I think that convergence is what will really bring India to the forefront when it comes to data centers, subsea and terrestrial fiber. And I do believe that with all the development happening at the pace at which in India, embracing the latest technology as well at the same time, will be at the forefront of digital infrastructure industry, if not the leader in the next 10 years. With that, let's give our panelists a big round of applause, and thank you so much for being such a great audience.
10 minutes to 2. By 1:50, please stand me back.
चार्जर देना मेरा निकाल के बाइक वाला ऊपर स्क्रीन पे रहना चाहिए राइट स्क्रीन पे कैसे